In English, we have been discussing the types of punctuation that you can use for parenthesis. Parenthesis is where you add extra information to a sentence, and you separate this information using brackets, dashes, or commas. Here we have 3 sentences. Each of these sentences contains an embedded clause that can be taken out while the rest of the sentence makes sense. I would like to add some parenthesis, punctuation to separate this information to make it much easier to read. Have a think where you would put the punctuation and which choices you would make. Would you choose to use a comma, brackets, or dashes? Here are the choices that I have made. If you made different choices, this does not mean that you are incorrect, because you can use any of these 3 types of punctuation for parenthesis. My first sentence says, Olive, who was nervous, felt her knees begin to tremble. Who was nervous is a relative clause. It starts with a relative pronoun who, adding more information about Olive. Therefore, I have chosen to separate this clause from the rest of my sentence with 2 dashes either side. My second sentence reads, they finally arrived at 9 p.m. in Budmouth Point. I could just have they finally arrived in Budmouth Point, but I've added in the time that they arrived for extra information. To separate this from the rest of my sentence, I have used brackets either side. My final sentence reads, Cliff spotted the lighthouse which was standing tall and felt excited. If I didn't have this embedded clause, it would say Cliff spotted the lighthouse and felt excited. This is a compound sentence because I have used and. However, I've tried to make it more exciting by adding more information about the lighthouse. Cliff spotted the lighthouse, comma, which was standing tall, comma, and felt excited. I've separated my embedded clause with 2 commas either side. We have also been looking at multi-step word problems for addition and subtraction this week. Have a think before you go on to the next slide about what each of these letters in the word RUCSAC stand for. Hopefully you can remember and use these in your word problems. The first step for RUCSAC is to always read the problem. I often encourage you all to read it more than once, especially if it's a complicated word problem like this one. Let's read it together. At the beginning of the year, there was £8,452.64 in the school budget. By the end of the year, £7,864.12 had been spent. The PTA, which stands for Parent Teacher Association, also raised £1,254.50 at the Christmas fair. How much did the school have left at the end of the year? Our next letter is U. Now this can stand for 2 things. First of all, we need to make sure we understand the word problem. If you don't understand it, you need to go back to step 1 and read it again until you do. When you think you've understood it, you then need to underline the important parts of the word problem that are going to help you. You definitely need to underline all of the numbers because you will want to use those. But it's also important to underline any key words that give you a clue about whether you are going to be adding or subtracting. You'll notice that I have underlined the word also. This is reminding me that this word problem has more than one thing I need to do. And in the final question, I've also underlined the word left because that is giving me a clue that the numbers are going to be getting less and I'm going to have a less amount of money left. The next letter is C, and this can stand for choose or it can just stand for calculation. You need to decide if you are adding or subtracting. Because this is a multi-step word problem, there are 2 things I need to do. This means there may be 2 different calculations. I've looked really carefully at my word problem and I've broken up what I need to do into 2 steps. The first thing that I think I need to do is I need to take £7,864.12 away from £8,452.64. When I have completed step 1, I can then use that answer and add the extra money that the PTA raised in the Christmas fair. This should give me my final answer. When you are confident with the calculations that you need to do, you can then begin to solve it, starting with step 1 and then moving on to step 2. To solve both parts of these, you need to make sure you are using a written method. Column method is the best choice. For step 1, I have started with my larger number at the top and I am taking away my smaller number. For step 2, I am adding my answer that I get from the first part to my number that they made in the PTA. Let's see what answers I got for both parts. So as you can see here, for step 1, £8,452.64, take away £7,864.12 gives me £588.52. I then take that answer over to step 2, where I add it to £1,254.50. This gives me the final answer of £1,732.02. So I have now completed A in RUCSAC. I have answered my questions. What I then need to do, which is very important, is go back to my word problem, make sure I haven't missed any steps out, and check my answer. I'm very happy with it and I have followed all of my steps. Enjoy completing your homework.